County to the City of Ankeny, board case number NC07-29. The proposal for annexation includes some land without the consents of the property owner.
The request is to annex approximately 1,900 acres. What you see on this overhead is the current Ankeny city limits.
The City Development Board must hold a public hearing on annexation proposals that include land without the owner's consent, and the annexation must be approved by 4/5 of the
Annexation area is this area in red at the northwest portion of our existing community. Again, the total area is about 1,900.
2014, we've been told the estimates from the school's demographer are showing the need then to build the second high school. That will take a referendum. The building permits have tapered off. We have a lot of inventory because of the construction that went on in 2003 and 2004. We estimate almost 1,700 lots in inventory.
Ankeny has 1,000 acres of undeveloped land at Prairie Trails. We hear 3,000 to 4,000 homes, 1,200 acres east of the interstate at the Deer Creek annexation, 1,000 acres in Corporate Woods, and there's the Evans Farm that was annexed out near Cherry Glen by Sailorville Lake. Now we're contemplating 1,867 acres addition west of town, a heartbeat away from Sailorville Lake. And I haven't heard lately a direct answer of how many acres are sitting undeveloped inside the city limits at this time. In May, Iowa Realty told me that there were 885 active listings in Ankeny. That's about a year and a half's worth of building permits that we just heard. I haven't checked recently, but the houses continue to pop up, buyers or not. Planning is a local decision, so the citizens are told, but the reality of the situation is that the citizen input can't measure up to the developer's desires. Ankeny touts their comprehensive plan as smart growth, but anyone who's ever researched smart growth principles realizes that Ankeny's comprehensive plan is not recognizable as smart growth. The city has used the 2003 comprehensive plan to epitomize sprawl development, and it is regrettable. So the only reality that I really have to talk about today, or question, is the intent of the city council, as Mr. Peterson stated, to include the abatement to every petitioner as state law requires. It's a question as to why that I hasn't been dotted before this stage of the game. And if the annexation were to pass tonight, the assurance that there would be an abatement, which is what many of the small landowners tell me is what they signed up for. Would it be granted? I assume it would be. The hope that this board will ask some tough questions to substantiate some of these findings is what does make me hopeful. And I do remain hopeful that this annexation will be...
The city can be more involved in doing some green communities. I couldn't agree more that the environment is a question. I mean, is something that's on my heart all the time as a person. My family, I have kids and a wife and everything, and I'm always thinking about the environment.
Stated that the total land annexed from 2000 to date is about 5,652.89 acres, and that this leaves a total of remaining land needed, according to the city, of 5,043.81 acres, somewhere in the range from there to 5,297.57 acres by 2020. We've seen that the population projections for the city of Ankeny and for Polk County are based on the highest years of growth and are not necessarily an accurate basis for projected land needs through the year 2020, and they're quite speculative. As I'm sure this board is aware, population projections feed into traffic models, which then feed into more federal money for highways and interchanges, and there's an obvious self-interest in exaggerated population projections. The Thousand Friends also believes that no annexations are needed given the vacant land in the city limits. And the city has vaguely documented certain numbers, like Mr. Peterson has stated, vacant lots and so forth, but we haven't seen a total of estimation of vacant land and housing stock. It's really discouraging that the level of lack of public influence over the city. We can't even produce a single number that we know is possible through the use of a calculator and files inside of the city. And that's why the role of this board is incredibly important as some kind of recourse to assure that this issue is important and that we do have the right to access that information. That being said, even using the exaggerated population projections, the city should not have to annex such a large piece of land at this time. If this annexation goes through this board, if it is not contested, and they stick with their projected land needs after this annexation, we wonder if the city would then hold off on the annexations for 5 to 10 years in order to catch up on infill development, which would be possible according to their own projected land needs. Another issue I wanted to raise is an issue of the sanitary sewer proposal for this area.
One of the questions that perennially comes up with Ankeny is the conversion of farmland, high-quality farmland into urban features, and I would like to have the city update us on what it's doing to increase overall density. I know there's a mix involved in all this, but to know what the city is doing in recent times to increase overall densities and to economize as much as possible on the conversion of good agricultural land into urban. I think because I wanted a little more time to think this over, and I may abstain from a yes or no vote on this, but I do want to compliment the professional staff, John, the professional staff for all that you are doing, and I think that there are a lot of very positive things about your history and what you're doing. I guess I disagree somewhat with this apparent city policy, the city government policy, in terms of things that they might do to slow the rapidity of the territorial growth that I hear expressed by the citizenry from time to time. I don't agree, I guess, with the city's policy position on that, or at least what it's been up till now. I think the city could do more to slow territorial growth and yet not infringe on a good population dynamic as far as the settlement of the community. Yes, I think densities can be increased, and I'm glad to hear that there's intentional effort to increase densities. And a lot of this, I think, has to do with improving the community aspect or the connectivity aspect of the community. Because I know when I drive in here, I'm from a small town, we have a town square, I walk to work, and when I drive into a place like this, I see all this linear development, lots of automobiles, very few people walking from house to grocery store to school, etc., and that does bother me. But I am glad to hear that this is on the scope of the city, and that we'll see more improvement as time goes on. Unfortunately, I think we lack some state incentives for all of our communities to incentives or preferably the incentives and at least some guidelines and directives to be more concerned about converting farmland to urban land, incentives to develop more of a neighborhood style of lifestyle in our growing communities. But that's nothing we can do anything about tonight.
I agree, Jay. I think that I wish Iowa cities like Ankeny and others like Ankeny would be willing to take more risk with developers in imposing certain conditions, and I guess we need some test cases. I have to support this. I don't find anything technically deficient with the application, and we really need to be thinking about development in different ways.
So with that, I'll call for a roll call vote.
Cosner?
Yes.
Howe?
Abstain.
Halverson?
Yes.
Brown?
You know, I agree that Anthony could do more, probably. You know, number one, we can't just vote no to send a message, but I also think if we voted no just to send a message, in this particular case, it would probably, in the end, because of what Sue said, just make things worse. I'd like to just vote no and send a message. I don't think it would do any good. I support the motion too, and those are just some of my thoughts in addition to ones that have already been stated.